I'd been away on business for 3 weeks, sealing a major contract that would secure my company's future for the next 5 years. The entire flight home from Seattle, I couldn't stop thinking about returning to the ranch my grandfather's legacy, passed down through 3 generations of the Carter family. So, you can imagine my shock when I pulled up to find a bright orange "Sold" sign slapped across our wrought iron entrance gate. My foot slammed the brake so hard the rental car's tires screeched. In my driveway was a moving truck, 2 men hauling boxes toward my front door, while a woman directed them with animated gestures. My blood pressure spiked as I threw the car into park and stormed toward them. "Excuse me, what the hell are you doing on my property?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady despite the fury building in my chest. The woman turned, clutching a clipboard to her chest. "Oh, you must be the previous owner. I'm Linda Thompson. We just closed on the property yesterday through the HOA auction. Such a steal at $25,000. The world tilted. "Auction? What HOA? This ranch has been in my family for 70 years. There's no HOA here." Linda's face paled. But the Riverside Estates HOA said this property was delinquent on dues. They had all the paperwork, the lien, the notices, everything. That's when I knew. Diane Ramsey, the self-proclaimed queen of Riverside Estates, the suburban development bordering the eastern edge of our property line, was behind this. Our ranch wasn't part of their neighborhood. We were a full mile outside their boundaries, surrounded by agricultural zoning. My grandfather, James Carter, had made damn sure of that when developers started sniffing around in the 80s. The Carter Ranch sprawled across 45 acres of prime Texas hill country. Granddad bought it in 1954 with his Korean War savings, built the main house with his own hands, raised cattle, and later shifted to boarding horses when economics changed. When he passed 5 years ago, the ranch became mine-free and clear, no mortgage, no liens, no debts. I'd maintained it meticulously, honoring his memory by keeping every fence post straight and every pasture green. Property taxes were auto-paid from a dedicated account. Everything was in order, or so I thought. Diane Ramsey had been president of the Riverside Estates HOA for 3 years. I'd heard stories from friends in the development, fines for grass half an inch too tall, citations for the wrong shade of beige on a mailbox, meetings that felt like congressional hearings. She ran that HOA like her personal empire, and apparently, she'd decided to expand her territory. The first letter arrived 6 months ago while I was at the ranch. I laughed when I read it. "Dear homeowner, following the recent boundary expansion vote by the Riverside Estates HOA Board, your property at 4578 Ranch Road now falls within our jurisdiction. Please find enclosed your retroactive dues invoice for $3,600. I tossed it in the trash, thinking it was a mistake or a scam. We weren't part of any HOA, never had been, never would be. The ranch was on unincorporated county land, governed by agricultural exemptions. You can't just vote to annex someone's property. That's not how property law works." But the letters kept coming. The second claimed I owed fines for fence height violations. Our century-old split-rail fence was supposedly 3 inches too tall. The third cited livestock noise pollution because our horses dared to neigh in the morning. Each letter was more ridiculous than the last, and each went straight to the garbage. Then they started arriving via certified mail. I refused to sign for them, thinking, let Diane waste her postage. That was my first mistake, underestimating how far Diane Ramsey would go to satisfy her need for control. What I didn't know was that Diane had been busy behind the scenes, filing documents with the county to create a paper trail suggesting I'd been properly notified of violations and ignored them. She'd even forged my signature on certified mail receipts, building the foundation of her lie while I remained oblivious. The quiet auction happened while I was in seat. Leno public notice in the newspaper, no posting at the courthouse, nothing to alert me or my attorney. Just Diane, her hand-picked board members, and conveniently her brother-in-law, who ran a real estate investment company called Starlight Holdings LLC. They'd auctioned my 45-acre ranch for $25,000, less than the value of the horses in our stable. Linda Thompson, it turned out, was another victim. She and her husband thought they'd scored an incredible deal on a distressed property, paying cash to Starlight Holdings. Now, here we were, standing in my driveway, trying to unravel Diane's web of lies. I called my attorney, Michael Hayes, on the spot. "Mike, I need you at the ranch now. Someone's trying to steal my property. While we waited, I convinced Linda and her movers to hold off on unloading. She was starting to realize her bargain purchase was a scam. Mike arrived within the hour with a sheriff's deputy I'd requested. Over the next 3 hours, we unraveled the scheme. The fraudulent documents were almost laughable in their audacity: forged signatures, fabricated meeting minutes, a lien filed with the county using falsified HOA documents. Diane had counted on me not fighting back or not noticing the sale until it was too late. But she'd made critical errors. The notary seal on several documents belonged to someone deceased 2 years ago. The HOA's charter clearly showed their boundaries ended a mile from my property. And, most damning, Starlight Holdings LLC, which bought my ranch, was registered to Diane's brother-in-law, with Diane listed as a secondary member. The deputy took statements and opened a criminal investigation. Mike got on the phone with a judge he knew, securing an emergency injunction to halt any property transfer. By nightfall, we had it. Linda and her husband, realizing they'd been caught in a criminal scheme, were eager to cooperate with authorities. They just wanted their $25,000 back. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of legal action. Mike and his team worked tirelessly, uncovering more evidence of Diane's fraud. My ranch wasn't her first target. She tried similar schemes with 2 other properties on the outskirts of Riverside Estates, though none had gone as far as mine. We also discovered she'd been embezzling from the HOA, using dues and fines to fund her expansion project, convincing herself that controlling more properties meant more power and money. The residents of Riverside Estates had no idea their dues were fueling legal warfare against neighboring properties. The investigation revealed forged emails, falsified county documents, and a complex series of transfers to hide the theft. Diane had even created fake violation notices, complete with photoshopped images of them posted on my gate. The FBI's white-collar crime unit got involved when it became clear this was interstate wire fraud. She moved money across state lines via online banking. 3 months after I found that sold sign, we had our day in court. The courtroom was packed. Riverside Estates residents, neighbors from surrounding properties, and local media who'd caught wind of the story. Diane sat at the defendant's table, no longer the confident HOA president who'd terrorized a neighborhood, but a woman watching her world collapse. The prosecutor laid out the case: 32 counts of fraud, 18 counts of forgery, conspiracy to commit grand theft, embezzlement. The list went on. When they displayed the forged documents on courtroom screens, several residents gasped, recognizing their own signatures forged on HOA meeting minutes they'd never seen. My testimony was straightforward. I'd never agreed to join any HOA, never received legitimate violation notices because my property wasn't under their jurisdiction, and the sale of my ranch was fraudulent from start to finish. Mike presented our evidence, building an airtight case. Diane's defense attorney argued she believed she was acting within her authority as HOA president, but that crumbled when the prosecutor showed emails between Diane and her brother-in-law discussing how they'd split the profits from flipping my ranch. One email even mocked me, saying I was too clueless to notice until it was too late. The judge's ruling was swift and brutal, guilty on all counts. The sale of my ranch was declared null and void. Starlight Holdings was ordered to return the $25,000 to the Thompsons immediately. Diane was ordered to pay $250,000 in restitution for legal fees and damages. But the criminal sentencing was where she broke. 8 years in federal prison for wire fraud and conspiracy, 3 years for embezzlement to run concurrently, and a lifetime ban from serving on any HOA board or in any fiduciary capacity. As the judge read the sentence, Diane's face went from red to white to gray. She swayed, gripping the table. "Your Honor," she stammered, "I was just trying to improve the neighborhood. These properties were dragging down our values with their livestock and agricultural exemptions. I don't deserve prison. I am a respected community member." The judge's response was ice cold. "Mrs. Ramsey, you violated the fundamental property rights of American citizens. You abused a position of trust to enrich yourself and your family. You forged documents, stole money, and attempted to steal land held by a family for generations. 8 years is lenient considering the maximum sentence I could impose." The gavel's crack echoed through the courtroom. Diane let out a wail like a wounded animal. As two federal marshals escorted her out, she turned to me, eyes blazing with hatred. "This is your fault," she screamed. "If you'd just paid the dues like everyone else, none of this would have happened." I didn't respond. I just watched her go, knowing the ranch granddad's legacy was safe. The courtroom cleared, and I stepped outside into the Texas sun, feeling the weight of 3 generations behind me. The Carter Ranch was still ours, and Diane Ramsey's empire was dust.